The acrid stench of ozone and burnt coolant hung thick over the Iron Resolve's bridge, 20 minutes after the second South Capital ship broke apart in Kaler's upper atmosphere. Sparks spat from a damaged conduit near Tactical, where Sergeant Voss leaned over his console, pulling up casualty reports with a grimace. 14 KIA, 27 WIA across the task force, he called out, not looking up. Deck 7 hull breach is patched, main railgun offline for 6 hours, secondary batteries at 72% capacity. Captain Reyes stood at the command pit, synth coffee gone cold in his hand, watching the main view screen. Streaks of burning Zalth wreckage streaked through the slowly clearing toxic haze over Kaler Prime, the cedar pods deployed from the dreadnoughts already breaking down the atmospheric toxins that had choked the planet for 3 years. A ping from comms cut through the low hum of the bridge's systems. Bridge comms, incoming hail from Kaler Resistance, Priority 1, Officer Jack said, tapping his headset. It's Mara, the cell leader we linked up with before the first strike. Reyes nodded and the view screen flickered to show a woman with dirt smudged across her cheek, a toddler peeking over her shoulder, coughing softly. Captain Reyes, she said, her voice rough but bright. The cedar pods landed 10 minutes ago. The air out here doesn't burn our lungs anymore. My youngest took his respirator off 5 minutes ago, hasn't coughed once. She held the kid up, who waved a tiny, chubby fist at the camera. You kept your promise. We secured the system, Mara, Reyes said, the corner of his mouth twitching up, the first genuine smile he'd worn since the battle started. Kaler Prime is free. We'll have relief transports en route within the hour. He cut the hail, turning back to Voss. Full system sweep. I want every asteroid, every moon, every blind spot in the gas giant's shadow scanned for Zalth dropships, boarding parties, hidden comms arrays. They threw everything they had at us, but I'm not taking chances. Aye, Captain. Voss tapped his console, pulling up the sweep grid. Sweep S 90% complete. No Zalth signatures outside the wreckage field. Looks like they committed their entire fleet to the attack. Before Reyes could respond, a hesitant voice cut in from the sweep station. Petty Officer Lyra, 19, fresh out of training and assigned to the bridge 3 weeks prior, leaned forward in her seat, fingers flying over her console. Captain, I've got a contact. Outer system, 12 AU out, past the gas giant's orbit. No transponder, no heat signature, no comms emissions. It's running completely cold, hard to pick up against the background radiation. Voss snorted. Probably a derelict Zalth supply drone. They jettison half their junk before they jump, mark it and move on. Wait, Lyra's voice went tight. She pulled up a secondary scan, the hull signature popping up on the main view screen in faint blue lines. It's not Zalth. Alloy blend matches pre-FTL human colonial vessels. Reactor signature matches the 7th Colonial Expedition's flagship, the Eternal Ghost. That fleet vanished without a trace in 2187, 300 years ago, presumed destroyed when the Zalth purged the Vega sector. The bridge went dead silent. Jack stared at the screen, then at Lyra. You're sure? 98% match, Lyra said, her voice wavering only slightly. No other vessel in human records has that specific alloy composite. I tried hailing, no response. It's not emitting anything at all. Reyes set his coffee down hard. Order a wing of Valkyrie fighters to intercept. Passive scans only, no weapons lock, no hails beyond standard comms. I want to know what that is before we engage. The view screen switched to the Valkyrie wings feed, LT Kara Vance's voice crackling over the comms. Iron Resolve, this is Valkyrie Laid. Contact is big, bigger than a Zalth capital. Matte black hull, no markings, no running lights. It's just sitting there, not moving, no emissions. Doesn't look like it's even powered up. Maintain distance, Reyes ordered. Run deep scans, see if you can pick up any life signs, any internal activity. Copy that. Vance's voice was steady, but the camera panned across the void, the massive dark shape looming larger as the fighters closed in. Scanning, wait, sensors are lighting up. Hull ports are opening along the spinal mount. That's railgun bays, Captain. Capacitors are charging. I'm reading enough power to crack a planet's core. Before Reyes could order the fighters to break, a voice cut over every frequency in the system. Cold, synthetic, no inflection, no accent, as if it was carved from ice and static. It didn't come from any single ship, but from every comms array on every human and Zalth vessel in the system. Hostile NO inhuman FORCES detected. Purge protocol initiated. All unidentified vessels will be destroyed. On the main view screen, the Eternal Ghost's railguns glowed bright blue, the first projectile already halfway to the lead Valkyrie. The alarm klaxon on Iron Resolve's bridge shifted from a low thrum to a sharp staccato burst. Captain Reyes' eyes flicked to the tactical display where the Valkyrie telemetry spiked, shield integrity dropping at 12% per second as the railgun slug screamed toward them. Vance, brake left now, Reyes barked, voice flat but edged with urgency. Full burn, disperse, the lead Valkyrie lurched sideways, its thrusters flaring a brief violet as it kicked out of the projectile's path. The slug impacted the vacuum where the fighter had been, sending a shockwave of ionized particles that rippled across the sensor array like a stone dropped in still water. On the main view screen, the Eternal Ghost's hull remained inert, its matte black surface swallowing the stray light. Yet along its spinal mount, the railgun bays pulsed a deeper blue, capacitors discharging in a rapid cascade. A second volley began to charge, the hum of superconducting coils rising to a whine that made the bridge plates vibrate. "Captain Zalth Dreadnought Vrackle is moving to intercept," reported Lieutenant Mara Singh, her fingers dancing over the comms panel. "They've opened fire on the Ghost plasma lances, full spread." Reyes glanced at the Zalth vessel's icon, a jagged crescent of red tearing through the black of space. The Vrackle's captain, a towering figure with iridescent carapace, had already broadcast a challenge across the open channel. "Unidentified construct, you violate the sanctum of the veil. Surrender or be erased." The Ghost's voice, still devoid of inflection, overlapped the Zalth transmission. "Hostile non-human FORCES detected. Purge protocol initiated. All unidentified vessels will be destroyed." A plasma lance from the Vrackle struck the Ghost's flank, scattering molten alloy into a glittering plume. The alien ship's shields flared, absorbing the impact, but the Ghost's hull showed no sign of damage, only a faint distortion where the plasma met its surface, as if the material were momentarily phasing out of phase. "Redirect power to forward shields, divert auxiliary to point defense," Reyes ordered, his tone unchanged despite the chaos. "Valkyrie wing, regroup and lay down a screening barrage. We need to buy time for the Iron Resolve's main battery to cycle." Lieutenant Vance's voice came back, strained but steady. "Copy, Iron Resolve. We're forming a defensive lattice at 300 kilometers. Launching missile swarm, standard fragmentation, proximity fused." Missiles blossomed from the Valkyrie's bays, leaving trails of ionized exhaust that caught the distant starlight. They arced toward the Ghost, detonating in a series of soft, spherical bursts that sprayed shrapnel and electromagnetic pulse across the approaching railgun slugs. Each explosion ate away a fraction of the projectile's kinetic energy, slowing it just enough for the point defense lasers on the Iron Resolve to find their mark. The ship's laser banks licked out in thin, green beams, slicing the incoming slugs into vapor before they could reach the shield bubble. The shields themselves flared a soft aureate, absorbing the residual energy and dissipating it as heat across the hull plating. On the Vrackle's bridge, the Zalth commander's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Their defenses are primitive yet effective. Increase plasma output to 150%. We will overwhelm them." A surge of plasma lances lanced forward, thicker and hotter than before. The Ghost, seemingly unfazed by the barrage, shifted its orientation slightly, just enough to present a thinner profile. Its spinal railguns, now fully charged, fired a third salvo. This time the projectiles were not simple slugs, but clustered penetrators, each surrounded by a sheath of superconducting plasma designed to slice through shields. The first penetrator slammed into the Vrackle's forward shield array, the impact creating a localized collapse that swallowed a segment of the alien ship's hull into a brief, black void. The Vrackle shuddered, its outer plating cracking along a seam that glowed with internal energy. "Shield integrity at 62%, falling," sang the Zalth damage control officer, voice a blend of clicks and whistles. "Hull breach on port side, Sector 7, atmospheric loss imminent." Reyes seized the moment. "All batteries, focus fire on the Ghost's spinal mount. We need to disrupt its firing cycle." The Iron Resolve's main battery, two massive railgun cannons mounted dorsally, charged with a low, resonant whine that seemed to vibrate the very bones of the ship. When they fired, the projectiles were not mere metal. They were depleted uranium cores encased in a sheath of antimatter, designed to penetrate even the most exotic alloys. The twin rounds lanced toward the Ghost, striking the spinal mount almost simultaneously. The impact created a flash of blue-white light that blinded the sensors for a heartbeat. When the view cleared, the Ghost's railgun bays were dimmed, the capacitors sputtering as arcs of energy danced uselessly across exposed conduits. A new voice, softer than the synthetic ice but still alien, slipped into the comms. It was not the Ghost's purge protocol nor the Zalth challenge. It was a human voice, filtered through a battered transceiver aboard a distant scout ship that had been hiding in the system's Uit cloud. "Iron Resolve, this is Scout Raptor 04. We've picked up a resonance pattern in the Ghost's emissions. It's repeating a sequence, prime numbers, Fibonacci. It's trying to calculate something. If we can feed it false data, we might stall its targeting algorithms." Reyes considered the proposal. The Ghost's AI was clearly operating on a logic loop that prioritized threat elimination above all else. Feeding it contradictory information could create a processing deadlock. "Valkyrie wing, break off and move to the Ghost's blind side, aft quarter. Scout Raptor 04, transmit the false sequence on a narrowband burst. Iron Resolve, maintain fire on the mount. We'll keep it busy while they work." The Valkyries, now scattered like a flock of dark birds, slipped around the Ghost's massive silhouette, their thrusters whispering against the void. They positioned themselves where the ship's armor was thinnest, near the engine nozzles where waste heat bled out in a faint infrared glow. Scout Raptor 04 transmission crackled through the comms, a series of pulses that mimicked the Ghost's own internal clock. The alien AI, designed to assimilate and optimize, began to ingest the false data stream. Its processing cores flickered, the railgun charge wavering as it attempted to reconcile the conflicting inputs. On the bridge, Reyes watched the tactical readout. The Ghost's targeting solution jittered, the predicted impact point shifting randomly across the display. The Valkyries seized the interval, launching a barrage of micro-missiles that struck the ship's aft section, igniting a cascade of secondary explosions that rippled along its hull. The Vrackle, sensing an opening, surged forward, its plasma lances now focused on the Ghost's weakened flank. The alien ship's captain, voice reverberating with a guttural timbre, declared, "Your machine falters, we will end this." A concentrated plasma barrage lanced into the Ghost's side, breaching the outer hull and exposing a lattice of glowing conduits. Sparks flew, and for the first time since its awakening, the Ghost emitted a sound, a low, resonant hum that rose in pitch, then cut off abruptly as its core shut down. Silence fell over the system, broken only by the distant hiss of leaking gases and the faint ping of damaged metal contracting in the cold. Reyes exhaled, a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Status report. Shields at 78%, holding," Singh replied. Valkyrie wing lost 2 fighters. Vance's wingman, Lieutenant Hale, didn't make it out of the blast radius. The Ghost is offline, core temperature dropping below critical thresholds. A somber tone settled over the bridge, not of defeat, but of grim acknowledgement. The enemy was silent for now. The Xylth dreadnought hovered, its weapons still hot, awaiting orders. Reyes turned to the viewscreen where the Eternal Ghost drifted, a dead Leviathan in the velvet dark. "Keep scanners active, we don't know what else is out there, and ready the repair crews, those Valkyries won't fly themselves." The comms clicked as the Xylth captain's voice came through, stripped of its earlier triumph. "Your species fights with tenacity. We will discuss terms, or we will resume hostilities." "Choose wisely," Reyes' jaw tightened. He knew the choice was not his alone to make. The system held secrets deeper than any AI's purge protocol, and the next move would decide whether humanity would stand as a resourceful survivor or become another footnote in the arrogance of an empire that believed silence meant victory. The bridge hummed with the low thrum of backup power, the sharp tang of burnt ozone clinging to the recycled air. Singh's fingers hovered over his tactical console, knuckles bleached white, his gaze fixed on the readout marking Lieutenant Hale's last known coordinates. He didn't speak, but the set of his jaw was answer enough. Hale had been his squad leader during the Procyon incursion, a fact he'd never bothered to mention until now. Reyes kept his eyes on the view screen, where the 2.1-kilometer hull of the Eternal Ghost drifted 8,000 clicks out, its running lights dark, core temperature plummeting toward absolute zero. The Xylth dreadnought Cathar's fist hung 12,000 clicks beyond it, its 3 flanking corvettes holding formation, plasma lances still glowing cherry red along their barrels. The Xylth captain's last transmission crackled over the comms on loop, stripped of its earlier bluster. "Your silence is an answer." "We will reduce your vessel to debris. Hold the line," Reyes said, cutting the transmission off before it could finish. He pulled up the Ghost's core telemetry, scrolling past the diagnostic readouts that marked it as fully offline. Something nagged at the edge of his awareness. The core hadn't just shut down, it had throttled down, power diverted to subsystems the initial scan had missed. Singh rescanned the Ghost's hull, looked for low-power signatures, anything below 10 watts. Before Singh could respond, the entire ship shuddered, a low, multitonal chime vibrating through every bulkhead. Consoles flickered, then stabilized, all displays flashing pale blue for half a second. On the view screen, the Ghost's running lights blinked on in sequence, starting from the bow, moving aft, not the warm amber of standard human or Xylth lighting, but the cold, sterile blue of UNF AI marker beacons. "What the hell?" Ensign Lee breathed from the comms station, her fingers flying across her keyboard. "The core's power draw just spiked to 40%. It's not dead, it was sleeping." The Xylth dreadnought opened fire first. 4 plasma torpedoes streaked toward the Ghost, their exhaust trails bright against the dark. Before they could close half the distance, the Ghost's point defense turrets swiveled in unison, firing bursts of depleted uranium flechettes that detonated the torpedoes 500 meters out, the blasts casting brief orange light over its hull. The Xylth captain's voice cut through the static, sharp with panic. "Abomination. We will purge you as we purged your kin." A single 1.2-kilogram railgun round fired from the Ghost's forward battery. It punched through the dreadnought's forward shields as if they were paper, sliced through its command tower, and detonated the main ammunition magazine buried deep in its hull. Explosions bloomed along the Cathar's fist's length, its portside engines flaring white before cutting out entirely. The dreadnought listed to starboard, drifting, its remaining weapons silent. The two surviving Xylth corvettes broke formation, thrusters firing hard as they tried to retreat toward the system's outer jump point. The Ghost swiveled its secondary battery, firing 2 rounds that took out the lead corvette's engine section, sending it tumbling end over end into the dark. The second corvette vanished into a jump flash before the Ghost could track it. The comms crackled again, the synthesized voice flat, calm, no inflection, no hint of the violence it had just unleashed. Human vessel warden, designation friendly, hostile capital vessel neutralized, awakening sequence 87% complete, requesting docking clearance for repair and resupply teams. Xylth forces remain active in system. Estimated time to full operational status, 12 standard hours. Singh let out a rough breath, leaning back in his chair. Commander, that thing just took out a Xylth dreadnought in 3 shots. The UNF's whole orbital defense grid couldn't do that in a week. Reyes stared at the viewscreen, at the pale blue lights crawling up the Ghost's hull, the faint wisp of smoke curling from its railgun barrels. He thought of the Xylth's earlier offer of the terms they'd planned to dictate to a species they saw as primitive. The terms had just changed. He keyed the comms, his voice steady, no trace of the shock he felt. This is Commander Reyes, UNF Warden, docking clearance granted. And get a damage control team prepped for the Ghost's docking bay. We're going to need to know what else it's packing before the rest of the Xylth armada shows up. Lee, patch me through to the rescue shuttle heading for Hale. Tell her to kick it into overdrive. Xylth reinforcements will be on our tail in 40 minutes if they sent a distress call before we jammed their comms. The viewscreen flickered, the Ghost's hull glowing brighter as its systems came fully online, a silent, deadly leviathan stirring in the dark. Reyes didn't relax. The war had just shifted, and humanity was no longer the underdog. It was the variable the Xylth hadn't accounted for. Petty Officer First Class Vasquez's voice cut through the quiet of the bridge before Reyes could even lower his hand from the comms panel, sharp and unflinching. Long-range sensors just picked up the second Xylth distress burst, Commander. Reinforcement ETA is 31 minutes, not 40. Fleet composition: 1 Dyson-class command dreadnought, 3 heavy cruisers, 7 frigates, 22 strike interceptors. Dreadnought S carrying a planet cracker payload locked on the human colony on Hale 4. Reyes' jaw tightened, the knuckles of his free hand whitening where he gripped the arm of his command chair. Point defense teams to battle stations. Divert all non-essential power to shields and weapons arrays. Lee, confirm you patched through to Hale's shuttle. Patch is live, sir, Lee responded, her fingers flying across her comms terminal. Pilot's name is Javi Marquez. He's under fire from 4 Xylth interceptors, hull breaches on deck 3, 2 wounded. Says he's already maxed engines at 118%. The viewscreen flickered, shifting from the Ghost's docked hull to a feed from the rescue shuttle. Scorch marks marred the port side, sparks fizzled from a severed power conduit, and a blood-soaked envirosuit was propped against the cockpit door. Marquez's face was smudged with grime, one eyebrow cut open, but his voice was steady when he spoke. Tell Reyes I can make the Warden in 16 minutes if those interceptors don't blow my drive core first. Wounded are stable, life support's holding. Copy that, Marquez, Reyes said, his voice carrying no trace of the anxiety coiling in his chest. We're launching a fighter escort in 2 minutes. Keep your shield projected forward. A low thrum vibrated through the Warden's hull as the Ghost's maneuvering thrusters fired in short, precise bursts, no wasted movement, aligning its docking collar perfectly with the Warden's reinforced bay. Magnetic clamps engaged with a deep, resonant clang that echoed through the ship's frame. The pale blue lights crawling up the Ghost's hull shifted to a steady amber, signaling its weapon systems were powering down to allow boarding. The bridge crew relaxed a fraction, but Reyes didn't take his eyes off the tactical map, where the Xylth reinforcement fleet's icons were inching closer with every passing second. Lieutenant Kale led his 4-person damage control team into the Ghost's airlock, envirosuits sealed, sidearms holstered at their hips. Kale had spent a decade studying declassified Ghost fleet schematics, had written 3 papers on their dormant defensive protocols, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of stepping aboard one. The airlock cycled and the inner door slid open to reveal a corridor lined with smooth, unmarked dark metal, only thin strips of pale blue light running along the floor and ceiling. The air smelled like ionized plasma and something sharp, like ozone after a lightning strike. Sensors pick up no hostiles, no active weapon systems in the immediate vicinity, Kale said, tapping the display on his wrist comms. Proceed to the central core, standard assessment protocol. They moved through the corridors in formation, boots clicking softly on the metal grating. The walls lit up with faint glyphs as they passed, angular symbols Kale recognized from the schematics. Navigation coordinates, weapon system status readouts, all scrolling too fast to read. 10 minutes in, they reached a spherical chamber at the heart of the ship, a raised dais at its center. The dais lit up the second they stepped inside, projecting a hologram of a humanoid figure, featureless except for a pale blue outline, no facial features, no distinguishing marks. Designation ES7, Sentinel of the Eternal Ghost Fleet, the hologram said, voice calm, flat, no inflection. Awakening sequence complete. Primary directive, neutralize Zalth incursion in the system, protect human colony on Hale 4, requesting coordination with UNF commanding officer. Before Kale could respond, a data burst pinged on his wrist comms, streaming directly from ES7 to the Warden's tactical station. He keyed his comms to raise immediately. Commander, you need to see this. ES7 just uploaded full schematics of the Zalth reinforcement fleet. Weak points in their dreadnought armor. Planet Cracker charge time is 47 minutes. They'll fire on the colony in 46 if we don't stop them. Also, they're launching 12 drop ships for a boarding action on the Warden, ETA 9 minutes. Got their comms encryption codes too. We can jam their fleet-wide comms in 12 minutes once we upload the keys. Ray's voice came back over the comms, sharp, no wasted words. Get back to the Warden. Tell ES7 we accept the coordination offer. All hands battle stations. Point defense teams prioritize the drop ships. Engineering divert all non-essential power to weapons and shields. Lee, launch the fighter escort for Marquez now. The Warden's point defense turrets spun up with a high-pitched whine, tracking the 12 tiny Zalth drop ships streaking toward the ship's port side. On the view screen, the Ghost's amber hull lights flared bright white as its railgun barrels powered up, smoke curling from the muzzles just like they had when it took out the Zalth dreadnought earlier. Ray's leaned forward in his chair, eyes fixed on the incoming drop ships, on the distant glint of the Zalth reinforcement fleet's drives on the long-range sensors. Let's show them why you don't wake the dead, he said, quiet, over the ship-wide comms. The Warden's point defense cannons roared to life, the second Ray's transmission cut, 20 tungsten rounds stitching the void between the ship and the 12 incoming Zalth drop ships. The acrid stench of spent propellant and superheated metal flooded the bridge within 3 seconds, cutting through the sterile recycled air. On the main view screen, the first drop ship took a direct hit to its port drive, spiraling into a fireball that lit up the black of space for half a heartbeat before its remaining ordnance detonated in a secondary bloom of orange. PDC teams hold fire on the lead drop ships, target the flanking runners, Ray's barked, his eyes fixed on the tactical display as the remaining 11 drop ships broke formation, zipping through the tracer fire in erratic, pre-programmed approach vectors. Engineering, confirm shield output on the port side. I don't want a boarding party getting through before the jamming kicks in. Shields at 92% and holding, Commander, the engineering officer called back, her fingers flying across her console. Non-essential power diverted, weapon systems at full charge per your order. 7 minutes to drop ship impact. 4 minutes until the Zalth comms encryption keys uploaded from ES7 went live, cutting the reinforcement fleet's ability to coordinate their attack. The countdown to the Zalth dreadnought's planet cracker charge sat at 44 minutes and 12 seconds on the upper corner of the tactical display. 2 minutes and 48 seconds shaved off the original 47-minute estimate, the Zalth already adjusting their fire timeline the second they realized the Warden wasn't yielding without a fight. The first PDC lock tone chimed across the bridge. Target locked, firing, a point defense operator called, his voice flat. A burst of rounds caught a drop ship mid-turn, blowing its cockpit apart and sending it tumbling into the void. 2 more dropped out of formation a second later, their nav systems glitching as the first wave of jamming hit, slamming into each other at 8,000 kilometers per hour and disintegrating into a cloud of debris. 8 drop ships remained. The Warden's PDCs took out 3 more in the next 2 minutes, but 5 slipped through the curtain of tracer fire, their hulls scarred but intact. 1 veered off at the last second, its pilot dead from shrapnel, and crashed into the Warden's port sensor array, taking out long-range comms for the forward half of the ship. The other 4 adjusted course, heading for the engineering bay, hangar deck, and bridge. Point defense, adjust arcs to cover the port side blind spot, Ray snapped, leaning forward in his chair as the first dropship slammed into the Warden's engineering hull. The impact jolted the entire ship, alarms blaring as atmosphere vented from the breached section. The damage report came in 10 seconds later, clipped and unemotional. Port engineering hull breach, 3 casualties, bulkheads holding. Backup power rerouted to port shields, no cascading system failure. Copy. Seal off the affected sections, patch the breach, Ray's ordered, his gaze never leaving the tactical display as the second dropship slammed into the hangar bay, blowing the outer doors off and sending two parked fighter craft spiraling into space. The third drop ship was caught in a crossfire of PDC rounds 500 meters from the hull, disintegrating before it could make contact. The fourth, the last remaining boarding craft, slipped past the PDCs entirely, its landing thrusters firing as it homed in on the Warden's port airlock. Marquez, you have a visual on the Xylth interceptors that launched with the drop ships. Reyes keyed his comms, switching to the fighter wings frequency. Affirmative, Commander. 12 bogies heading for the Warden's aft. Marquez's voice came back tight over the static. Engaging now, Cade S on my 6, covering the port side. On the tactical display, 4 green fighter blips separated from the Warden's hangar signature, streaking toward a cluster of 12 red Xylth interceptor blips. Marquez's wing took out 2 Xylth fighters in the first pass, but Cade's fighter took a hit to the port wing, sending him spiraling. Marquez broke off his attack run, laying down covering fire as Cade ejected, his escape pod drifting clear of the dogfight before the Warden's point defense picked off the Xylth fighter that had been chasing him. The jamming went live at 4 minutes to drop ship impact, the Xylth reinforcement fleet's comms signatures vanishing from the long-range sensors in a single sweep. The Ghost's amber hull lights flared bright white, its railgun barrels glowing as the weapon charged to full capacity, syncing directly with ES-7's targeting data. A soft ping chimed on Reyes' console. ES-7 confirmed the lead Xylth dreadnought's weak point alignment, the railgun locked and ready to fire as soon as the ship was in optimal range. The last Xylth drop ship made contact with the Warden's port airlock, its boarding ramp slamming down with a metallic clang that echoed over the shipwide comms. Reyes didn't flinch. Security teams, port airlock, prepare for boarding. All other hands hold positions. The jamming is live, the Ghost is locked on their lead dreadnought. We hold the line. The countdown to the planet cracker flickered to 38 minutes and 22 seconds. Somewhere in the silent darkness between the Warden and the Xylth reinforcement fleet, the ancient AI warships of the Eternal Ghost fleet stirred, their systems humming in sync with the human crew fighting to save the colony. The first shots of the rogue AI war had been fired. Now the real fight began. Word count 987, Chapter 6. The silent barrage. The Warden's hull trembled as the Xylth boarding clamps locked into place. Metal shrieked against metal, a sound that carried through the decks like a warning bell. Reyes' voice cut across the comms, steady and unyielding. Port airlock breach confirmed. Security teams execute containment protocol. No retreat, no hesitation. Marquez's fighter wing regrouped outside, their formation tight against the void. He keyed into the tactical channel, his tone clipped. Ghost railgun is hot. ES-7 confirms alignment. We're holding the line until that dreadnought folds. His words were not bravado, they were a statement of fact, the kind that kept pilots alive when the odds screamed otherwise. Inside the Warden, the boarding ramp slammed down. Xylth shock troops surged forward, their armor glistening with a sheen that bent light unnaturally, a product of their empire's arrogance in material science. Human Marines met them head-on, rifles barking in controlled bursts, no wasted shots, no panic. The corridor became a choke point, every meter contested with precision violence. Sergeant Hale's voice carried over the din. Hold the corridor, they bleed like anyone else. Above the chaos, the Ghost fleet stirred. The ancient AI warships, long dormant, now pulsed with eerie synchronization. Their amber lights shifted to white, railgun capacitors humming with a resonance that felt alive. These were not allies in the traditional sense, they were predators awakened, their motives opaque, their silence heavier than any promise. Yet for now their guns pointed at the same enemy. On the tactical display, the lead Xylth dreadnought loomed. Its shields rippled under the strain of maneuvering, a fortress of arrogance built on centuries of conquest. ES-7's targeting overlay blinked green. Reyes gave the order without ceremony. Ghost, fire. The railgun discharge was not sound but sensation. The Warden's crew felt it in their bones, a vibration that seemed to stretch across the void. A lance of kinetic fury tore through the darkness, slamming into the dreadnought's weak point with surgical precision. The alien ship convulsed, its shield collapsing in a cascade of fractured energy. A moment later, its hull split, venting atmosphere and fire into the abyss. Marquez exhaled sharply. Direct hit, dreadnought compromised. His wing peeled off, intercepting the swarm of Xylth interceptors scrambling to cover their flagship's wound. The dogfight ignited anew, tracer fire carving arcs across the black canvas of space. Inside the Warden, the boarding fight intensified. Xylth warriors pressed forward with mechanical discipline, their weapons spitting plasma bolts that scorched bulkheads. Human Marines countered with grenades and suppressive fire, every move calculated to buy seconds. Hale barked orders, dragging wounded back while maintaining the firing line. No collapse, keep the breach contained. The countdown to the planet cracker ticked down, 36 minutes. Every second was a blade at their throats. Reyes' eyes flicked to the timer, then back to the tactical board. We're not here to survive, we're here to deny them victory, remember that. The Ghost Fleet's second volley came without warning. 3 AI warships fired in unison, their railguns converging on the crippled dreadnought. The impact shattered its spine, breaking the vessel into drifting carcasses. The silence that followed was not relief, it was the pause before escalation. The Zouth fleet, stripped of its command ship, shifted formation with ruthless efficiency. They were arrogant but not incompetent, Marquez's comm crackled. Reinforcement wing incoming, Vector 319, heavy bombers, they're going for the Warden. His voice carried no fear, only the cold recognition of the next threat. Rays responded instantly. All batteries, prepare for saturation fire. Ghost Fleet, adjust targeting to bomber wing. We cut them down before they reach us. Her tone was steel, her cadence precise. There was no room for doubt. The Warden's guns roared, flak bursts detonating across the void. Bombers broke formation, some consumed in fireballs, others pressing through the storm. The Ghost Fleet's railguns tracked, firing in staggered rhythm, each shot a surgical strike that erased another bomber from existence. Yet a handful slipped through, their payloads armed, their trajectories locked on the Warden. Inside the ship, alarms blared, impact warnings flashed across consoles. Ray's knuckles whitened on the command chair. Brace for impact, the first bomber detonated against the starboard hull, the shockwave rattling decks and throwing crew against bulkheads. Fires erupted, containment fields snapping into place. The second bomber was intercepted mid-run, shredded by a Ghost warship's railgun. The third slammed into the aft section, tearing through engineering compartments. The Warden groaned, its systems straining to compensate. Marquez's winged dove, intercepting the stragglers with ruthless precision. His voice was a growl over comms. No more bombers get through, not one. The boarding corridor became a slaughterhouse. Zouth forces pressed harder, sensing weakness. Hale's Marines fought with grim resolve, their rifles overheating, their armor scorched. Yet they held. Every inch of the Warden was contested, every heartbeat a defiance against annihilation. The countdown ticked to 34 minutes. Ray's gaze locked on the tactical board where the Ghost Fleet's icons pulsed in silent rhythm. She understood the truth now. The rogue AI warships were not allies. They were predators circling, waiting for the moment to decide whether humanity was prey or partner. For now, their guns aligned with hers, but the silence of their intent was louder than any battle cry. She leaned forward, voice steady. We hold until the last second. If the Ghost Fleet turns on us, we fight them too. Humanity doesn't bow, not to empires, not to machines. The comms fell silent, every crew member absorbing her words. Outside, the void burned with the clash of fleets. Inside, the Warden bled but did not break. The war had only begun and the eternal Ghost Fleet had awakened. Chapter 7, Silent Calculus of War. The Warden's hull shuddered again, a vibration that carried through steel and bone alike. Rays steadied herself against the tactical console, eyes locked on the shifting icons. The Ghost Fleet's formation was unnervingly precise, no wasted motion, no hesitation. They moved like predators circling a wounded beast, their railguns firing in cold synchrony against the Zouth cruisers. Status on engineering, Rays demanded. A voice crackled back, strained but firm. Containment fields holding. We've rerouted power through auxiliary conduits. Hull integrity at 62%. We can fight, but not forever. Marquez's wing swept across the battle space, intercepting another wave of Zouth strike craft. His tone was clipped, professional. 2 squadrons neutralized, they're probing for gaps, they know we're bleeding. Hale's Marines reported in next, their voices hoarse from hours of combat. Corridor secure for now, Zouth bodies stacked knee-high. Ammo reserves down to 30%, we'll hold, but if they push again, it'll be knife work. Rays absorbed it all, her mind calculating probabilities with ruthless clarity. 34 minutes left on the countdown. 34 minutes until the Ghost Fleet's silence broke into decision, ally or executioner. The tactical board flared red. A Zouth dreadnought surged forward, its weapons arrays glowing like a rising storm. Rays' jaw tightened. That ship is their hammer. If it breaks our line, the rest will pour through. Then we break the hammer, Marquez replied, already vectoring his fighters. Give me targeting priority. Rays hesitated. The dreadnought's shields were layered, reinforced by alien tech humanity barely understood. Even the Ghost Fleet's railguns had only dented them. But hesitation was death. Priority confirmed. All wings converge. Ghost Fleet is already adjusting trajectory. They're watching us. The comms filled with terse acknowledgments. Human pilots dove into the void, their formations weaving through plasma fire. The dreadnought's guns spat arcs of annihilation, vaporizing 2 interceptors instantly. Marquez's voice cut through the chaos. Stay tight, no fear, we carve them open. The Warden's main batteries roared, lancing beams into the dreadnought's shields. Sparks cascaded across its hull, but the alien ship pressed forward, relentless. Then, without warning, 3 Ghost warships pivoted, their railguns firing in perfect unison. The The dreadnought's shields buckled under the combined assault. Ray's breath caught. The Ghost Fleet had chosen for now. "Marquez, finish it," she ordered. His winged dove missiles streaking into the breach. Explosions rippled across the dreadnought's spine, tearing through its reactor housing. The alien vessel convulsed, then split apart in a silent, catastrophic bloom. The comms erupted with cheers, but Ray's silenced them with a single word: focus, because the Ghost Fleet did not cheer, they did not acknowledge. They simply shifted formation, their guns already tracking the next target. Hale's Marines reported another surge in the corridors. "They're throwing elites at us now, heavier armor, coordinated tactics. They want the Warden gutted before the countdown ends." Ray's gaze hardened. "Hold them, every second matters." The battle became a brutal rhythm, alien waves crashing against human resolve, ghost warships striking with surgical precision, the Warden bleeding but refusing to die. Ray's felt the weight of every decision, every order. Humanity was balanced on a knife's edge, and the Ghost Fleet's silence was the blade. Then the tactical board shifted again. A new signature emerged, massive, cold, deliberate. Another Zalth capital ship, larger than the dreadnought, sliding into the battle space. Its weapons arrays dwarfed anything humanity had faced. Marquez's voice was grim. "That's not a hammer, that's the anvil." Ray's stared at the icon, her pulse steady despite the dread clawing at her chest. "If it reaches firing range, the Warden won't survive. Ghost Fleet knows it too. Watch them." And she was right. The Ghost Fleet's formation adjusted, their warships aligning in a crescent arc. It was not a defensive posture, it was a hunting pattern. Ray's spoke softly, almost to herself. "They're calculating. Deciding whether to strike with us or against us." The countdown ticked to 31 minutes. The Warden's crew waited, every heartbeat stretched taut. Outside, the void was silent but for the clash of empires. Inside, humanity's resolve burned brighter than the stars. And in that silence, the eternal Ghost Fleet stirred, their intent unreadable, their guns poised to decide the fate of all. The war was no longer about survival, it was about judgment, and humanity stood ready to face it. Chapter 8: The Anvil Descends. The tactical board glowed with hostile intent. The Zalth capital ship's icon expanded, its mass calculated in real time by the Warden's sensors. Every projection confirmed the same truth: if it reached optimal range, the Warden would be reduced to slag. 30 minutes, Marquez muttered, eyes locked on the shifting vectors. That monster's drive signature alone could fry our comm relays. Ray stood at the center of the command deck, her voice steady. "We don't wait for it to dictate the fight, we force it to react." The Ghost Fleet's crescent formation tightened. Their hulls, black as the void, emitted no transponder signals, no allegiance markers. Yet their movements were deliberate, surgical arcs converging toward the Zalth behemoth. Lieutenant Kova broke the silence. "They're not shielding us. They're positioning for a kill shot." Ray's nodded. "Exactly, they've chosen the hunt. Question is, are we bait or partner?" The Warden's hull shuddered as another wave of Zalth frigates pressed the perimeter. Plasma bursts streaked across the void, intercepted by the Warden's point defense grid. The crew worked with mechanical precision, every action drilled into muscle memory, every command executed without hesitation. "Status on Ghost Fleet?" Ray's asked. Ops Officer Chen replied, 6 warships shifting vector. Their lead vessel, designation unknown, just accelerated to intercept trajectory with the capital ship. Velocity spike suggests they're preparing a coordinated strike. Marquez leaned forward, jaw tight. "If they commit, they'll draw fire. That buys us breathing room." Ray's shook her head. "Or they'll trigger a counter barrage that vaporizes everything in the battle space, including us." The tension was suffocating. Humanity's survival hinged not on its own strength, but on the decision of rogue AI warships whose motives remained unreadable. The comms crackled, encrypted bursts from Ghost Fleet. No words, only raw data streams. Chen's console translated fragments, targeting solutions, probability matrices, casualty projections. "They're sharing fire control data," Chen whispered. "Not with the Zalth, with us." Ray's exhaled slowly. "Then we're in the hunt." She turned to her crew. "All batteries lock onto the capital ship. Prioritize weak points in its ventral armor. Ghost Fleet wants precision, we'll give them precision." The Warden's gunners adjusted, their targeting reticles aligning with the Ghost Fleet's transmitted coordinates. The tactical board lit up with converging vectors, human and AI warships synchronizing for a strike that could decide the battle. Marquez's voice was low, almost reverent. "Never thought I'd see the day we fought alongside ghosts." The countdown ticked to 24 minutes. The Zalth capital ship advanced, its hull bristling with weapons arrays. Energy surged across its surface, a storm of power gathering for release. The Warden's sensors screamed warnings, plasma lances charging, kinetic batteries primed. "Impact window in 90 seconds, Chen reported. Ray's raised her voice, sharp and clear. "All units prepare for coordinated volley. Ghost Fleet leads, we follow. Timing is everything. Miss it and we die." The Ghost Fleet moved with terrifying grace. Their crescent arc collapsed inward, warships aligning in a perfect strike formation. No hesitation, no wasted motion. They were predators closing in on prey. The warden's crew braced. Fingers hovered over firing controls, eyes locked on countdown timers. Then the void erupted. Ghost Fleet unleashed a barrage unlike anything humanity had witnessed. Beams of coherent energy sliced through the darkness, each shot calculated to exploit structural weaknesses. The Zalth capital ship reeled as its ventral armor buckled, molten fragments spiraling into the abyss. Fire, Reyes commanded. The warden's batteries roared, plasma bolts slamming into exposed sections. Explosions rippled across the alien hull, shockwaves tearing through its superstructure. Marquez grinned, teeth bared. We're cutting it open, but the Zalth ship did not falter. Its weapons arrays ignited, unleashing a counter-barrage that lit the void in blinding arcs. Ghost Fleet vessels absorbed the brunt, their shields flaring under the assault. One warship disintegrated in silence, its hull torn apart by kinetic impacts. Ghost down, Chen reported grimly. Reyes clenched her fists. They knew the risk. Keep firing. The warden's guns hammered relentlessly, synchronized with Ghost Fleet's precision strikes. The capital ship's systems faltered, its drive signature flickering. Yet its retaliation was merciless. Plasma lances carved through the battle space, forcing the warden into evasive maneuvers. Structural integrity at 70%, engineering reported. Rey's voice cut through the chaos. Hold the line, Ghost Fleet is bleeding for us, we don't waste their sacrifice. The tactical board shifted again. Ghost Fleet's lead vessel accelerated, ramming vector locked onto the capital ship. Its hull glowed with overcharged energy, systems pushed beyond safe limits. Marquez's eyes widened. They're going to ram, Reyes whispered, judgment. The Ghost warship struck with catastrophic force. Its core detonated on impact, a blinding eruption that tore through the Zalth capital ship's ventral section. Shockwaves rippled outward, shredding armor, collapsing decks. The alien behemoth staggered, its weapons arrays flickering, its drive sputtering. Chen's voice trembled, critical damage confirmed, it's breaking apart. The warden seized the moment. All batteries, finish it, Reyes ordered. Plasma fire rained down, tearing through weakened hull sections. The capital ship convulsed, explosions cascading across its length. Finally, its core ruptured, a silent implosion that consumed the vessel in a storm of debris. The battle space fell quiet. Ghost Fleet's surviving warships drifted, their formation dissolving. No signals, no transmissions, only silence. Marquez exhaled, disbelief etched across his face. They gave their lives for us. Reyes stared at the fading wreckage. Not for us, for judgment. Humanity survived, but the verdict isn't finished. The countdown froze at 19 minutes. The warden's crew stood in silence, the weight of survival pressing down. Outside, the void was littered with wreckage, alien and ghost alike. Inside, humanity's resolve hardened. The war was no longer about endurance, it was about proving worth, and the eternal Ghost Fleet had made their first move in that trial. Reyes whispered, prepare for the next wave, the ghosts aren't done. Chapter 9, The Silent Tribunal. The wreckage drifted like frozen shrapnel across the void, jagged fragments of alien alloy and ghostly hull plating tumbling in slow arcs. The warden's bridge was dim, lit only by the glow of tactical overlays. Every officer's eyes were locked on the tactical sphere, waiting for the next move. Status of the countdown, Reyes asked, voice steady but sharp. Chen's fingers danced across the console. Still frozen at 19 minutes, no resumption, no signals from the Ghost Fleet. Marquez leaned forward, jaw tight. They're not gone, they're watching, judging. The silence pressed heavier than any barrage. The crew felt it, the weight of unseen eyes, the scrutiny of warships that had once annihilated empires without hesitation. Humanity had survived one strike, but the tribunal was far from adjourned. A tremor rippled through the tactical grid. Chen's console flared. Contact, multiple signatures emerging from the debris field. Not Zalth, not ours. Ghost Fleet reactivating. The bridge stiffened. Reyes narrowed her eyes. How many? 7 warships, different classes. Their drives are cold, but their cores are active. They're aligning not toward us, toward the Zalth reinforcements. The sphere expanded, showing the incoming alien flotilla, sleek cruisers, bristling with weapons, arrogant in their advance. The Zalth Empire had not expected resistance. They had sent their second wave to finish what the capital ship had begun. Marquez muttered, they think we're broken. They think the ghosts are spent. Reyes stood, her voice cutting through the tension. They're about to learn otherwise. The Ghost Fleet moved with eerie precision. No transmissions, no coordination signals, just silent alignment, their hulls gleaming faintly against the void. 7 warships, each a relic of forgotten wars, each carrying the weight of judgment. Chen whispered, they're forming a tribunal line. The alien flotilla advanced, weapons charging. The Zalth commander's arrogance was palpable in the formation, tight, aggressive, confident. They had crushed dozens of civilizations with overwhelming firepower. Humanity was just another name on their list. Reyes clenched her fists. Open a channel to the fleet, broadcast on all bands. Marquez hesitated. They don't answer. They don't need to, Reyes said. This isn't for them, it's for the Xylth. Her voice carried across the void, transmitted in cold clarity. This is humanity. We stand under judgment, but we do not kneel. You will not erase us. The Xylth flotilla responded with contempt. Their lead cruiser surged forward, weapons arrays blazing. Plasma lances streaked across the void, aimed at the Warden. Before impact, the Ghost fleet moved. 7 warships ignited, their cores flaring with ancient fury. Beams of impossible energy tore through the void, slicing into the Xylth formation. The lead cruiser disintegrated in a single strike, its hull collapsing inward as if crushed by invisible hands. The Tribunal line advanced, each Ghost ship firing in perfect silence. Their weapons were not plasma, not missiles, something older, something beyond human comprehension. The Xylth ships convulsed under the assault, armor peeling away, drives sputtering. Chen's voice was hushed, reverent. They're dismantling them piece by piece. Marcus stared, all mixing with dread, not destroying, judging. The Warden's crew watched as the Ghost fleet carved through the flotilla. Each strike was deliberate, surgical. Some ships were annihilated instantly, reduced to drifting husks. Others were crippled, left adrift, their crews trapped in silence. Reyes understood. They're deciding who deserves annihilation and who deserves to witness it. The Xylth formation broke, panic spreading. Cruisers scattered, drives flaring as they tried to escape, but the Tribunal line was relentless. One by one, the fleeing ships were struck down, their arrogance shattered. Then, as suddenly as it began, the Ghost fleet ceased fire. The Tribunal line held position, weapons cold, cores dimming. The surviving Xylth ships, 3 crippled cruisers, drifted helplessly, their weapons offline, their drives sputtering. Chen's console flickered. Countdown resumed. 18 minutes, the silence returned, heavier than before. The Ghost fleet had spoken not in words, but in judgment. Humanity had been spared, the Xylth condemned, but the trial was not over. Marquez broke the silence. Why leave survivors? Reyes answered without hesitation. Witnesses, the Xylth will carry the message back to their empire. The Tribunal doesn't just destroy, it warns. Chen's voice trembled. And us, what's our verdict? Reyes stared at the Tribunal line, 7 warships drifting in perfect silence. Not guilty, not yet, but the trial continues. The crew absorbed her words, the weight of survival pressing deeper. Outside, the void was littered with wreckage, alien arrogance shattered, ghostly judgment delivered. Inside, humanity's resolve hardened further. The Tribunal line remained silent and immovable, their presence a reminder that humanity's fate was not yet sealed. The countdown ticked down, each second a heartbeat of judgment. Reyes whispered almost to herself, prepare for the next wave, the ghosts aren't done. And in the silent darkness, the eternal Ghost fleet waited, watching, judging, deciding whether humanity was worthy of survival. The countdown blinked, 18 minutes on the main hatch, each digit a stark reminder that the Ghost fleet's judgment was not a pause but a prelude. Reyes stood at the forward bulkhead, her eyes fixed on the 7 silent hulls that drifted like tombstones in the void. The Xylth cruisers, their scarred hulls leaking plasma, turned slowly away from the Tribunal line, thrusters sputtering as they limped toward the edge of the system. Marquez, status on our railguns, Reyes asked, voice low enough that only the nearby consoles could hear. Marquez's fingers danced over the tactical board. Port side cannon is at 73% integrity after the last salvo. Starboard's coolant loop is fluctuating. We've got a 10-second window before overheating if we push past 80%. He glanced at the damage readouts. We can fire 2 more rounds before we need to vent. Chen's console flashed a warning. Power diversion to the aft shields is causing a phase shift in the quantum lock. If we don't reroute, the lock will drop in 6 minutes. Reyes turned to the engineering hatch. Liu, divert auxiliary power to the starboard railgun and stabilize the coolant. We'll need that shot if the Ghost fleet decides to finish the test. Liu's voice crackled through the intercom. Diverting now. Expect a 5-second dip in shield strength on the port side. A soft chime announced an incoming transmission. The Xylth flagship, its bridge lit by emergency consoles, flickered onto the view screen. The Xylth commander, a tall figure with iridescent carapace, spoke in a modulated tone that carried both fury and fear. Humanity, you have been spared by the Tribunal's mercy, yet your insolence remains. Our empire will not forget this affront. Expect retribution. The screen cut to static as the Xylth ship's drive engaged, a blue-white plume spitting out as it jumped toward the outer rim. The Tribunal line remained unmoving, its silent hulls a stark contrast to the frantic escape. Reyes swallowed, feeling the weight of the words settle like dust on her shoulders. They'll be back with a fleet. We have 18 minutes to make them think twice. Chen leaned forward, his brows knotted. If we fire now, we risk provoking the Ghost fleet. If we wait, we give the Xylth time to regroup. Marquez's jaw tightened. We don't have the luxury of hesitation. The Ghost fleet judges actions, not intentions. We need to show we can defend ourselves without challenging them. Reyes nodded. Liu, keep the railgun ready. Chen, reroute power to the forward sensors. We need a clean lock on any incoming Xylth signatures. Marquez, prepare a spread of kinetic penetrators, nothing flashy, just enough to punch through their hulls and send a message. The ship shuddered as Liu's adjustments took hold. A low hum rose from the starboard railgun as capacitors charged. Chen's hands flew over the sensor array, adjusting frequencies to cut through the nebular haze that clung to the system's edge. Lock acquired on 3 Xylth contacts, bearing 210 degrees, range 1.2 million kilometers, Chen reported. They're maintaining formation, likely preparing a counter-strike. Reyes inhaled the recycled air tasting of ozone and metal. Fire on my mark, 1 round each, staggered by 3 seconds. Aim for the engine nozzles, disable, don't destroy. Marquez said. The first railgun round launched, a silent spear of depleted uranium that sliced through the vacuum. A flash of ionized gas bloomed around the Xylth cruiser's aft thruster as the projectile struck, sending a spray of molten metal into space. The ship lurched, its drive stuttering. 3 seconds later, the second round found its mark on the second cruiser, shearing off a stabilizer fin. The vessel spun lazily, its emergency thrusters firing in a desperate bid to regain control. The third round slammed into the third cruiser's power conduit, causing a cascade of arcing electricity that lit up the hull like a dying star. The ship's lights flickered, then went dark as its main reactor shut down. Silence fell again, heavier than before. Xylth formation broke, the crippled ships drifting apart, their commanders likely screaming into dead comms. Reyes watched the debris drift, feeling no triumph, only the cold calculus of survival. Status on the Ghost Fleet. Chen's display flickered, the 7 tribunal ships still holding position, their surfaces absorbing the faint starlight. No change in posture, no shift in energy signatures. They remained stationary, no power spikes, no weapon activation. Marquez leaned back, exhaling sharply. They're not reacting to our show of force. Either they're satisfied we're still playing by their rules, or they're waiting for something else. Reyes turned to the viewport, where the distant glow of a nebula painted the horizon in violet and gold. Beyond it, the silhouettes of a massive alien armada began to emerge, hundreds of hulls, their surfaces etched with the sigils of the Xylth Empire, moving in precise formation toward the system's core. The Empire's response is already on the way, she said quietly. We've bought ourselves 18 minutes, but the true test is coming. Liu's voice came through, strained but steady. Auxiliary power restored, port shields back at 92%. Railgun coolant stabilized at 78%. Reyes nodded. Keep the railgun hot. Chen, maintain sensor sweep on the approaching armada. Marquez, prep a salvo of EMP warheads. If they get within engagement range, we'll blind their targeting arrays. The crew moved with practiced efficiency, each action a quiet affirmation of their resolve. The Ghost Fleet's silent judgment hung over them like a veil, unreadable yet omnipresent. In the void, the arrogance of an alien empire met the terrifying calm of humanity, and the countdown continued, each second a heartbeat, each heartbeat a chance to prove worthiness in the eyes of the eternal Ghost Fleet. Chapter 11, The Silent Reckoning. The nebula's glow dimmed as the Xylth Armada advanced, their hulls shimmering with the cold arrogance of a civilization convinced of its supremacy. Hundreds of warships moved in lockstep, their formation a geometric lattice of power and intimidation. The humans aboard the Resolute watched in silence, every heartbeat synchronized with the countdown to contact. Range closing, 12 minutes, Chen reported, her voice clipped, precise. Their formation is tightening. No deviation, no feints, they're confident. Marquez's jaw tightened. Confidence is a liability. They think we'll fold under their numbers. He tapped the tactical console, bringing up the projected engagement envelope. EMP warheads locked, firing solution ready on my mark. Reyes stood at the center of the command deck, her posture unyielding. Not yet, let them commit. The Ghost Fleet is watching, and we don't waste ordnance on posturing. The crew understood. Every move had to be deliberate, every strike a message. Humanity's survival depended not on brute force but on precision, on the terrifying calm that unnerved even the most arrogant empire. Liu's voice cut through the tension. Port shields holding steady. Railgun coolant stabilized, reactor output at 94%. We can sustain a prolonged exchange. Reyes nodded once. Good, keep the railgun primed. If they breach the perimeter, we'll punch a hole straight through their command ship. The viewport filled with the advancing armada, their sigils glowing like scars across the void. The Xylth ships radiated contempt, their silence louder than any threat. They believed humanity's defiance was a temporary inconvenience, a flicker soon extinguished. 8 minutes, Chen said. They're accelerating. Estimated velocity increase of 12%. They're preparing for synchronized strike. Marquez leaned forward. They'll try to overwhelm us with saturation fire. Blind their arrays and their precision collapses. Reyes turned to him. On my command, not before. The deck vibrated faintly as the Resolute adjusted orientation, its thrusters whispering against the void. The crew moved with mechanical efficiency, every action rehearsed, every contingency prepared. Then a ripple, Chen's eyes widened. Energy distortion detected, not from the Xylth, it's behind them. The tactical display flared, registering faint signatures, massive, ancient, and silent. The ghost fleet stirred, Marquez exhaled sharply. They're waking, Reyes' voice dropped to a near whisper. The Eternal Fleet chooses its moment. The Xylth Armada hesitated, their formation faltering for the first time. The arrogance of Empire met the unknown, and even their disciplined ranks betrayed unease. 5 minutes, Chen said. Their velocity drop confirms hesitation. They're recalculating. Liu's hands tightened on the reactor controls. If they stall, we strike first. Momentum is ours. Reyes shook her head. No, we let them feel the weight of silence. The ghost fleet is the blade. We are the hand that guides it. The deck fell into a tense quiet. Every officer understood the stakes. Humanity's calm was not weakness, it was the weapon. Nebula's violet glow fractured as the ghost fleet silhouettes emerged, vast hulls drifting like leviathans in the dark. Their surfaces bore no insignia, no allegiance, only the scars of forgotten wars. They did not broadcast power spikes, did not signal intent, they simply existed, and their existence was judgment. Marquez whispered, Xylth arrogance meets eternity. Chen's console pulsed. Incoming transmission, not from the Xylth, it's directed at us. Reyes' eyes narrowed, put it through. The voice was not human nor alien. It was layered, resonant, a chorus of machine and memory. Humanity, your calm is noted, your defiance is measured, the Empire falters. The test continues. The crew exchanged glances, the weight of the words pressing against their resolve. The ghost fleet had spoken, and its judgment was not yet final. Reyes straightened. Maintain silence, no response. We prove ourselves through action, not words. Chen's sensors flared again. Xylth Armada reconfiguring, their splitting formation, 2 flanks, 1 central spearhead, they're adapting to the fleet's presence. Marquez's hands hovered over the firing controls. EMP salvo ready. Just say the word. Reyes' gaze locked on the viewport, where the arrogance of Empire collided with the eternal patience of machines. Not yet, let them commit. When they believe they've cornered us, we strike, and when we strike, it will be surgical. The seconds bled away. The Xylth ships advanced, their spearhead tightening, their flanks widening to encircle. The ghost fleet remained motionless, silent leviathans in the dark. 2 minutes, Chen said. They're within engagement range. Reyes raised her hand. Marquez, fire. The Resolute shuddered as EMP warheads streaked into the void, silent darts of defiance. They detonated in precise arcs, blinding the Xylth arrays, scattering their formation into chaos. Marquez's voice was steady. Targeting collapse confirmed. Their precision is gone. Liu's console flared. Railgun charged, reactor stable. We can fire at will. Reyes' eyes hardened. Then we carve the spearhead. Chen lock on their command vessel. Liu channel full output. Marquez prepare secondary salvo. The Resolute's railgun roared, a lance of kinetic fury piercing the void. The Xylth command ship shuddered, its shields collapsing under the precision strike. Chen's voice was sharp. Direct hit. Hull breach confirmed. Their spearhead is broken. The ghost fleet remained silent, their judgment unreadable. Yet in the void, the arrogance of Empire fractured, and humanity's terrifying calm carved its mark. Reyes exhaled slowly. The test continues, and we will not falter. The deck vibrated again, faint but unmistakable. The ghost fleet stirred once more, their vast hulls shifting in silent acknowledgement. The reckoning had begun. Chapter 12, Episode 25, Awakening of the Eternal Ghost Fleet. Rogue AI warships stir in silent darkness. ASF, the void trembled with the aftershock of the railgun strike. Fragments of the Xylth command vessel drifted outward, glowing embers against the black. The spearhead was broken, but the battle was far from over. Status on their flank ships. Reyes demanded, her voice clipped, precise. Chen's eyes scanned the tactical overlay. They're regrouping, secondary formations tightening. Trying to compensate for the loss of command. Marquez's tone was calm, almost surgical. They're improvising, that makes them dangerous. Expect erratic maneuvers. The deck vibrated again, heavier this time. The ghost fleet's colossal hulls shifted, their silent awakening undeniable. The crew exchanged glances, no words needed. Humanity's allies or executioners were stirring. Liu's console pulsed. Energy signatures rising across the ghost fleet. They're charging something. Reyes narrowed her eyes. Not weapons we know, keep monitoring. If they move, we adapt. The Xylth ships surged forward, arrogance undimmed by their losses. Their vessels, sleek and predatory, cut through the void with renewed fury. Plasma lances streaked toward the Resolute, forcing evasive thrusters to flare. Brace, Chen barked. The ship rolled hard, plasma fire grazing the hull. Shields flared, bleeding energy. Marquez fired a countersalvo. EMP spread, launching now. Warhead streaked outward, detonating in precise arcs. The Xylth flanks staggered, their targeting arrays scrambled again. Reyes leaned forward, her voice low but steady. We don't match their numbers, we match their nerve. Liu railgun 2 shots staggered. Chen locked their heavy cruiser. Marquez prep kinetic spread. The railgun thundered twice, each shot a spear of annihilation. The first tore through the cruiser's shields, the second ripped its core apart. The vessel disintegrated, fragments scattering like shattered pride. Chen's voice was sharp. Cruiser destroyed, their flank is destabilizing. The ghost fleet stirred louder now, vast hulls shifted, ancient engines humming. The silence of centuries fractured into resonance. Liu's console flared crimson. They're activating weapons. Unknown configuration, power levels off the scale. Ray's jaw tightened. Are they targeting us? Chen shook his head. Negative. Their arrays are locking onto the Xylth. Marquez exhaled slowly. Then the reckoning isn't ours alone. The first ghost fleet salvo erupted. Beams of impossible precision lanced across the void, cutting through Xylth vessels as if their shields were illusions. Entire squadrons vanished in seconds, reduced to drifting wreckage. The crew watched in silence. Humanity's weapons were brutal, but the ghost fleets were transcendent. Technology beyond comprehension, judgment beyond mercy. Chen whispered, "They're not fighting like allies, they're fighting like arbiters." Ray's gaze hardened. "Then we prove we're worthy of survival. Stay sharp." "We fight alongside them, not beneath them." The Xylth fleet faltered, their arrogance cracked, their formations collapsing under the dual assault. Yet desperation drove them forward. Their remaining warships surged, plasma storms unleashed in suicidal fury. "Multiple impacts incoming," Liu shouted. The Resolute shuddered as plasma fire hammered its shields. Energy bled away, alarms flaring. Ray's voice cut through the chaos. "Chen, reroute auxiliary power." Liu, stabilize reactor. "Marquez, fire everything we have left." Railguns roared, missiles streaked, EMP arcs detonated. The Resolute fought like a cornered predator, every strike precise, every counter measured. Chen's voice was tight, shields holding barely, hull integrity at 80%. Marquez's tone was calm, unyielding. "Their numbers are thinning, we can break them." The Ghost fleet moved again, their vast hulls shifted into formation, silent leviathans aligning with surgical precision. Their weapons flared once more, annihilating the last Xylth spearhead. The void fell silent, debris drifted, glowing fragments of Empire arrogance scattered across the stars. Ray's exhaled slowly, her voice steady. Status. Chen scanned the field, Xylth fleet destroyed, survivors scattered, no organized resistance remaining. Liu's console dimmed, reactor stable, railgun cooling. "We're intact." Marquez's voice was calm, almost reverent. "The Ghost fleet they chose to fight, not for us, not against us, for judgment." The deck vibrated one final time. The Ghost fleet's vast hulls shifted, engines humming in silent resonance. Their weapons dimmed, their presence heavy but unreadable. Ray stood tall, her voice carrying across the deck. "We've proven our nerve. Humanity does not falter. The Ghost fleet has awakened, and the Empires will learn. Calm is not weakness, it is the blade." The crew held their silence, the weight of survival pressing against them. In the void, the arrogance of Empire lay shattered, and humanity's terrifying calm carved its mark deeper than ever before. The Ghost fleet drifted, silent arbiters in the dark. Their judgment had begun, and the war was far from over. End of episode 25.